For Serra, I'm Cody Weddle in Caracas, Venezuela. For our top story, we stay here in Venezuela. President Nicolas Maduro has released evidence tying a Colombian paramilitary leader to the assassination of Congressman Robert Serra. Maduro says the murder of Serra and his assistant was meticulously planned for 3 months. He went on to say that the murderers have been identified by video footage and other evidence. One of the killers was serving as Serra's bodyguard. Maduro also went on to say and exposed that the violence in the country since February 12th is part of a destabilization plot by the right-wing opposition. He revealed other plans by groups linked to former Colombian President Alvaro Uribe to kill Venezuelan government officials.
It is highly important that this crime be resolved, that justice be made so that we can continue on the path to defeat the paramilitary groups that have been infiltrated by the Colombian ultra-right wing and the Venezuelan fascist ultra-right wing.
In Colombia, our correspondent Charles Parkinson has been looking into the fragile relationship between former President Alvaro Uribe and the country's media. Here's his report.
For Mario Morales, a Colombian media analyst, the recent assault launched by former President Alvaro Uribe against Telesur and Bogotá's Canal Capital are just the latest example of his attacks on the media and contempt for press freedom.
Faced with criticisms, denunciations and accusations based on investigative journalism from reporters, Uribe, instead of responding, and this is all part of a political propaganda strategy, he accuses, makes claims, he stigmatizes.
During a Senate debate in September on his alleged links to paramilitarism, Uribe accused the two progressive outlets of being at the service of terrorism.
It's a persecution that emerged 12 years ago and has been constant. It simply corresponds to his interpretation of the media, which is that they are not in the line with his politics, they are simply servants of terrorism.
Uribe's fierce attacks on the media have in the past gone unpunished. But with his influence waning in the face of falling approval ratings and the senator currently engulfed in a separate accusation of a targeted persecution of an individual journalist, perhaps this time he will face the legal consequences of his actions. Charles Parkinson, Telesur in Bogotá, Colombia.
And thanks to Charles, the governor of the southern Mexican state of Guerrero, Ángel Aguirre Rivero, wants to hold a vote on his future as governor. It comes as the latest development amid mounting anger at authorities following the disappearance of 43 students. Aguirre has submitted a proposal to the state Congress seeking a popular referendum. He has so far refused to step down despite intense public pressure. It follows the September 26th attack on a group of students by police and masked gunmen that left 6 dead. 43 of them suddenly went missing. Since then, 10 mass graves have been found, but according to DNA results, none of the bodies belong to the missing students. Mexican authorities continue their search for the wanted mayor of Iguala and his wife. The two have been directly implicated in the crime. The Venezuelan government has implemented airport screening checks at its national airport in Vargas State. It's an attempt to protect its population from the possible spread of the Ebola virus from abroad. Here's our correspondent Rachel Boothroyd.
Docentes, no va a haber interesante que nosotros tengamos una red con epidemia.
Venezuela doesn't escape from everything that is related to prevention, and we are doing everything possible to guarantee health as a human right to the Venezuelan people.
The medicine students will be responsible for carrying out Ebola screening checks on people arriving to Venezuela, as well as for dealing with any potential emergency situations. Whilst no cases of the virus have been recorded in Venezuela, 1,500 sets of protective clothing have been ordered as stipulated by the World Health Organization. The country's community doctors say that they feel prepared for any eventuality.
This week, Venezuela begins implementing preventative measures against Ebola at home, whilst next week the country will take on a leading role in promoting solidarity efforts to stem the virus abroad. My name's Rachel Boothroyd, reporting for Telesur from Caracas.
And thanks to Rachel. With fewer than 10% of the ballots left to be counted, leftist Bolivian presidential incumbent Evo Morales won just under 60% of the vote. Bolivia's TSE Electoral Court made the announcement Wednesday. According to preliminary figures, Morales secured 59.8% of the votes. His nearest rival, Democratic Unity candidate Samuel Doria Medina, secured just over 25%. Voting results for the legislature are yet to be released. However, the allocation of all senatorial seats and the lower house is calculated by proportional representation based on the presidential vote. In celebration of National Teachers Day, Brazilian professors from universities across the country issued letters of support for Dilma Rousseff in the upcoming presidential elections. Meanwhile, in Sao Paulo, Brazilian teachers will meet with President Dilma Rousseff today to express their support for her re-election. Since 2003, under the Workers' Party leadership, 128,000 new jobs in higher education have been created. That includes the creation of 422 technical schools and 18 public universities. And we now turn to Gaza, where for the first time in a year, Israel has permitted the entry of over 430 trucks. The vehicles were loaded with construction materials and many more with commercial and agricultural goods. Our correspondent Noor Harazin is in the Palestinian enclave with the story.
Goods, and we hope in the near future more and more will enter to the Gaza Strip.
For the past years, Israel has blocked building materials from entering the Gaza Strip in order to be bought and used by residents and locals. Only a small amount of these materials is allowed into Gaza every few months by the coordination of the UN and to be used for their own projects in the enclave. Israel has for the last 8 years severely restricted all imports and exports, including basic supplies such as concrete. Noor Harazin, Telesu TV, Gaza.
Thanks once again to Noor. The U.S.-led coalition has increased its attack on Islamic State group targets in the besieged town of Kobani on the border with Turkey. In the last 48 hours, over 40 missiles have been launched on 16 IS-held buildings, killing several hundred Islamic State fighters. Despite the continued campaign, retired Admiral John Kirby warns the extremist group could still take over the border town.
ISIL fighters, again, in and around Kobani.
For many years, the U.S. government has kept secret the fact that many of its soldiers were exposed to old chemical weapons in Iraq. That's according to a report by the New York Times. 17 U.S. troops and 7 Iraqi police were wounded by exposure to abandoned chemical weapons between the years 2004 and 2011. The New York Times reports that the incidents were largely kept quiet by the Pentagon. Some of the weapons were reportedly designed in the U.S. and manufactured in Europe. American soldiers reported finding around 5,000 chemical warheads or bombs after the invasion of Iraq and depositation of Saddam Hussein in 2003. In Buenos Aires, La Garganta Poderosa, The Mighty Throat, is a multiple award-winning monthly magazine that arose from the country's most marginal barrios or neighborhoods. Its objective is to tell another side of the story of the communities. They also hope to fight back against the demonization and stigmatization that the monopolized mass media portrays. Here's our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Leonel Poblete, with this story.
Tired of the mainstream media labeling them as criminals, residents of Argentina's marginal barrios, known here as villas, created La Garganta, a magazine that says no to advertising, is proudly autonomous and grows with the help of the collective spirit of its supporters.
La Garganta Poderosa is founded upon the need for social justice, and due to the silencing of our issues by the mass media who always cover the bad news about our barrios and never tell the wonderful things that also occur.
The reporters of La Garganta are all born and bred in these barrios and have found in journalism a peaceful means of protest and transformation.
We run workshops on photography, writing, and so will we have one on graphic design. This way residents of our barrios would like to be able to get educated as communicators and take part in the magazine. So yes, we're constantly learning here.
Its front cover has become an icon of Argentina's print media, featuring the edition's main guest, who simulates a roar, which relates directly to the magazine's name. La Garganta is the voice of Argentina's marginal barrios, demonstrating that it is possible to fight back against monopolized mass media, telling this side of the story. From Buenos Aires, Leonel Poblete Coduti, Telesur.
A good way to end this evening. Thanks to Leonel. We have plenty more on those stories and others at our website, telesurtv.net/English. For Telesur English, I'm Cody Weddle. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.